there's a new Venom. Now, a lot of you guys know that I'm rather upset that Flash Thompson has lost the Venom symbiote, but we're getting to a storyline in which he's going to be receiving it again, or a version of it. So we got to start with the beginning of that storyline with one of the more recent runs of Venom that is basically a part of Marvel Legacy. It started before Marvel Legacy, then it became a part of Marvel Legacy, but here is what happened to the Venom symbiote after Flash Thompson lost it. This is the new Venom host. Over the past few years, the Venom symbiote has had many hosts, some good, some bad. But the one thing that Venom knew very well was that the good ones are hard to come by. And soon, Venom will learn that his newest host, Lee Price, is far from a good guy. As the night progresses, Lee gets a text from his friend Tony to come meet him at the diner tonight. He might have some work for him. Lee walks into the diner on time to see Tony sitting in a booth with another man named Mac Gargan. Mac is looking for a little side business that could use a hand. Mac looks at Lee and tells him that Tony told him that he was an Army Ranger. Did he ever kill anyone over there? Lee doesn't respond at first and then tells him, yeah, you need to kill somebody for this job? Mac tells him, whoa, no way! My employer runs a strictly non-lethal organization. And Lee tells him, right. Mac turns to Tony telling him that this friend of his might be crazy, and there's a big problem with crazy. Tony tells him, no, you've got it all wrong. Lee's just nervous. And as Mac points at Lee's face, he says that isn't the look of a guy who's nervous. He's one of those guys that went over to the other side of the world and turned into a murder machine. Lee pulls off his left glove, showing that 2 of his fingers are missing. And he says that he was wounded in action and discharged from the Rangers. Having a hand like this won't get him the kind of security work that he'd like. But right now he needs work. Mac gets up from the table and then begins to walk out, telling the 2 of them that they don't need people to kill people. Just people who look like they're going to kill people. We'll call him tonight. Meanwhile, in the alleyway, Venom tries to find a host so that he won't wither away while an old drifter passes by. Venom jumps out of the trash can onto the man and he begins to bond with him. But the old man is too weak and Venom ends up vomiting as he absorbs the man. Flash Thompson is missing. Eddie Brock is nowhere to be found. What happened to the Venom symbiote? Why is he alone? He wipes the bile from his mouth, thinking that there's just too much pain in this New York. So many lost people, and now I'm becoming one of them. Later that night, Lee and Tony head out to where Mac told them the meeting was, and they find out that the cargo that they've been selling is some kind of a toxic gas. Tony jokes, telling him that before he would have just met a guy at the coffee shop to get a CD. Last year, he moved a nuclear warhead. Like he actually touched a warhead. But before Tony could go on about how his life has changed, the buyers arrive, and the thug gets out stating that Uncle Tombstone would like to thank them for bringing his stuff. You can head home now. Tony says, wait, what about the payment? And the thug tells him, your payment is living. Maybe you shouldn't be working for a crime boss who looks like a supermodel in spandex. They're referencing Black Cat. As Tony grabs his gun, the other thugs grab theirs and Lee sighs, thinking that he didn't bring his gun. One of the thugs points their gun at Lee and Lee tells them that if they're going to do it, just go ahead and get on with it. But just before the thug can pull the trigger, there's a loud crash and Venom comes bursting out of the wall, roaring. The thugs begin to open fire on him, and Venom quickly spreads himself out to shield Lee from being hit. As Venom begins to bond with Lee, he begins to see Lee's life and his time in the army. Venom tells him, my last host was a soldier and he saved the world. Together, we can do the same. As Venom talks, Lee tells him to shut up. You're not the one in control here. I'm the one in control of you. Venom fully covers Lee, and then Venom shouts, no! You can't kill these people! We're supposed to save people! Venom tries to fight for control over Lee, but Lee starts killing everyone in his reach. And once Lee is done, Tony asks if he's still in there. Venom pulls back and Lee says, what a rush! This thing, it's talking in my head. It's a suit and other people have had it. Tony asks him, what, you're Iron Man now? And Lee tells him, no, this is even better. This thing has fought Spider-Man, but it needs to be kept secret. With one quick thrust, Lee reaches out, crushing Tony's neck, and his body is thrown next to a homeless man. The homeless man begs him not to kill him, but Lee kneels down, and he tells him that he just killed a man that he knew from grade school because he can't keep secrets. After making sure everyone in the building is dead, Lee loads the bodies up and sets the place on fire while taking the product with him. As he gets home, he sits back telling Venom that it's time for him to figure out how to use this power to his advantage. 2 days go by and Lee heads out to return the product to Mac and his employer, thinking that it may not have been such a good idea. The doors open and Lee sees Mac standing there with the employer, Black Cat. Black Cat tells Lee to have a seat. She's been told that he was the only one to make it out alive that night. Lee tells her that that sounds about right, and when the buyers showed up, they had no intention of buying. Him dying was a little out of his pay grade, so he just brought back the merchandise. Black Cat tells him that that is true. but you're also a day late. Care to explain why? Lee begins to think back without saying anything as to what happened on that day, about how him and Venom had a talk. He knew Venom was there, and when Venom finally came out, he shouted, "You killed those men!" Lee told him, "Yeah, and you helped. From what I can tell, you've left piles of bodies in your past." Venom yells, "I've known men like you. They're hollow, empty of any sense of honor. You're evil, and there won't be a second time of that happening." Lee gets up from his chair telling him, "I'm not so sure you have a say in it." And Venom screams, "Just because I won't kill you, it wouldn't be wise to antagonize me." Lee asks him, "Not wise, huh?" And he takes a chair, bashing Venom in the face with it. Venom slams Lee into the wall, and just as the tendril reaches out to grab Lee, they stop and act as if they're being pulled away. Lee brushes himself off the wall, and then he punches Venom, telling him to listen up. We're gonna have a serious conversation about who's in charge here. But in the current time, with him sitting with Black Cat, he tells her that he spent the night thinking. As the conversation between the two of them continue, Venom pokes out, stating that he's also been inside of Mac Gargan's head. "It's hollow rage. There's no way that we're going to work for these people." Lee tells him that he doesn't have a choice in this, and Venom tells him, "Maybe not, but there are certain involuntary responses that I can trigger." Suddenly, Lee feels a sharp pain in his stomach, and he grabs a trash can to throw up in it. He wipes his mouth, telling him, "I'm sorry. It's just the nerves getting to me, Cat." Kat tells him that she doubts that's the case. "Whatever it is, pull it together and get that bucket out of here." Lee begins to walk out, stating the Scorpion there knows how to get in touch with them if they need him. Kat says that is disgusting. Now we need a new suite. But Max says that there's something familiar about this guy. Like, how did he know who he was? Later that night, Lee walks home with Venom and he tells him, "Never pull that crap again. You could have endangered all of those people there. Our secret must remain a secret." Venom says that he doesn't understand. "You want to work on becoming a crime boss now?" And Lee says, "No, the boss is public. I would rather stay in the shadows and get what's owed. We have to play this smart, be invisible, no point being mixed up with the super freaks." Lee opens the door to his apartment and he asks, "What's this?" And a man responds, telling him, "This is your death, delivered personally by the Firebug. I didn't forget what you did to Tombstone's men the other night." Lee laughs, telling him, "I remember Firebug from when I was a kid. You're what, like 22 or something?" Firebug shouts, "It's a franchise now. It is time for you to pay for what you've done." As Firebug begins to ignite, Venom says, "I'm not going to help you hurt another person." Lee tells him, "I'm confident they're going to rethink that position in a moment." A few minutes later, Firebug walks out of the burning building reporting that it's done. The guy was terrified. And then Firebug hears a scream. And when he turns back, he sees Venom walking towards him. Lee grabs Firebug, slamming him into the ground, shouting, "You tried to burn us! What's worse, you've seen who we are. Those that do must die." And just as Lee is about to punch down on Firebug, a voice shouts for him to halt. "They are Federal Agent Wambaugh, and you're under arrest." Agent Coil then runs up from behind, asking if it's really Venom. "Wasn't he one of the good guys last time we checked?" Lee looks back, telling him, "You want to take a poke next? That's fine. Firebug here won't last long." Firebug begins to yell, "Screw off!" and he begins to set Venom on fire, but Lee just grabs him and throws him. Venom screams, "I can't do this anymore. I need someone else, anyone else." Wait, that's it. He begins to pull himself off of Lee and he grabs onto Wambaugh so that they can bond. Coil fires his gun at Venom during the jump and one of those bullets hits Lee right in the chest. Venom wraps himself around Wambaugh, telling him, "I can help. You're meant to be a hero and save lives." As Wambaugh struggles to get the Venom symbiote off of him, Venom looks back thinking that if he's supposed to be saving lives, he should start with Lee's. The next morning, Lee begins to blink and he finds himself in Tony's apartment asking why is he here. Venom tells him, "I saw it in your memories. It's the only place that seems safe." Lee then notices the hole in his chest and he asks, "You're the one who saved me, huh? You want to hate me, but you saved me." Venom says, "I do hate you, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to let you die when I have the power to save you. My job is to protect life." Lee smiles, telling him, "You didn't seem like you wanted to keep life alive when Firebug tried to incinerate us." Before Venom could try to explain, Lee says, "I get it. You're like a dog, smart and calm, but when you're spooked, you act on instinct. You think that you want to be a hero, but what you really want more than anything is someone to be in charge." Seconds later, the apartment door is kicked in and Wambaugh shouts that they're gonna try this again. He knows who he is, and this time it's gonna be different. Lee tells Wambaugh that he could kill him right now. That rifle that he's holding doesn't mean a thing. And Venom whispers, "I won't let you fight. I'm still weak." And Lee says Wambaugh doesn't know that. Wambaugh says, "Sure, you could kill me, but out on the rooftop in the next building is my partner sitting with an incinerary payload that could burn everything. So, this is what we do know. You have a symbiote and you've taken steps to prevent anybody from knowing that. Now, we're not here to arrest you. One or two things are going to happen. Coil will pull the trigger and we'll both die, or you can work for us. Lee asks, so what, I'm a rat now? And Venom whispers, this could be a good thing. We could work on defeating criminals. Lee tells him to shut up. You think that they're any different because they have a badge? Elsewhere, Mac Gargan sits eating when Adam shows him a picture of Lee's apartment asking if that's him. Mac asks what? I assumed that you'd go behind Black Cat's back. She wanted to hire the kid. And Adam tells him, you're right, fire isn't his style. If we're gonna go for him, we should go directly. And that's why Cat put me in charge, to do things that need doing. Mac looks back at his scorpion suit and he says, damn right we do. The next day, Lee heads to the bus stop where Wambot told him to be, and Venom says, I don't like being a prisoner. That's what I feel like right now. And as Coil begins to walk up, Lee tells him, shut up, one of them is coming. Coil takes a seat, stating that it's his turn to risk his life talking to him, so here it goes. Coil then holds out a tablet with a picture of Flash Thompson, stating, we know what's inside of the Venom symbiote. That thing has spent a lot of time in government captivity. They've studied it. They know its weaknesses. They also know that the suit is a bioorganic memory, and they would like Venom to tell them who Spider-Man is. Lee asks Venom if he knows, and Venom tells him, I don't think so. Coil goes on stating that Spider-Man had tangled up with many of New York's crime lords and has yet to bring them any information on them, so they want to change that. So with Venom not giving up anything on Peter, Lee heads over to his next appointment, which is Black Cat. Black Cat tells him that she does have a job for him, and that is to speak to the reporter Patrick Healy of the Daily Bugle. He's been asking the wrong kind of questions about her organization, so his job's going to be to convince him to find a different story. Venom whispers, this is good. We won't have to kill anyone. We can be scary. We can do the scary face. Adams mentions that maybe they shouldn't send Lee alone. What about sending Augustine along for the job? Cat thinks about it and tells him no, we'll send Gargan. Venom shouts, we don't like Mac, what is happening? And Lee says, it's obvious we're being outplayed here. Lee takes the information and begins to walk over to Patrick's apartment building when he sees Mac already waiting for him. He tells him that for the record, he looks ridiculous in that huge suit in this dinky hallway. Did you actually climb the stairs in that thing? Mac shouts, it doesn't matter how I got in here. Before Lee could tell him to wait, Mac charges in through Patrick's door. As Patrick begins to run away, Mac corners him and asks, how would you like to get a face-to-face interview with some of the people you've been writing about? Venom screams, Mac is going to kill him! We have to save him! But Lee tells him Cat said not to kill him. He doubts that Mac would disobey her order. Lee then speaks up to Mac, telling him, I don't want to bother you, but the boss said no more bodies. So, if you're trying to make me look bad, Mac tells him, oh no, the plan wasn't to make you look bad. The plan was to kill both of you and pin it on you. Before Lee has a chance to react, Mac grabs him and throws him into the wall. Mac's giant claws then clamp down on Lee's neck, and Venom shouts for him to do something. As Mac begins to beat Lee, Lee tells him to calm down. Let Mac think that he's killed us. And after Lee has stopped moving, Mac tosses his body and tells Patrick not to worry. I'm gonna make this one quick. But before Mac could swing, Venom shouts, no! Mac then looks back to see Venom taking over, and him shouting, there will be no more killing. Venom leaps in and Mac releases a sonic blast, peeling Venom off of Lee, telling him, I'm not sure where that suit came from, but I did wear it. Next door, one of the neighbors bangs on the door, telling them to keep it down in there. Suddenly, Mac is knocked out of the apartment with a fridge, and Venom jumps out after him. The girl with the man shouts it's time for them to go, and the man pulls out his phone, and he begins recording, saying, wait, everyone in the world needs to see this. As the fighting continues, Lee knocks Mac out of the apartment building, shouting, I'm gonna rip you out of this suit and eat you. And just as Lee gets ready to take a bite, he's shot in the mouth with webbing, and he quietly says, no. Spider-Man swings down yelling, Flash, you got some serious explaining to do! Lee picks up Mac's body and throws it into the air, and Spider-Man quickly webs him back to the ground, asking, what do you think you're doing? After Lee tosses a car at them, Mac gets back up shouting, I want that suit! Fire begins to burn from Mac's tail, and as Lee aims the blast in another direction, Spider-Man jumps in to save two civilians standing by. As Spider-Man turns back, he looks around and asks, where did Venom go? Back inside of Patrick's apartment, he pulls himself out of the debris and he calls into the Bugle to get his story rolling when a hand reaches out grabbing the phone. Lee smiles, telling him, you're gonna want to hang up that phone now. A few moments later, on top of a nearby building, Lee webs up Patrick, telling him, I know you've been working on a piece regarding Black Cat's organization. As Lee scratches down Patrick's face, he tells him, I'm gonna need all the information you have, starting with Adam's address. A little while later, at Adam's apartment, he returns home to feed his fish when he notices the fish are not coming out to eat. Through the tank behind him, Lee jumps out, slamming Adams into the ground, telling him, you've made a real mess of things. Having Scorpion try to come and kill me? Lee then picks Adams up and he throws him into the couch, telling him, I've already lied to Black Cat once, and now she knows that I have the symbiote. But the problem that we're gonna run into is that we went behind her back to try and get rid of you. So, here's where I'm gonna offer some protection. A short while later, as Venom digs through Lee's memories, Lee shouts to him to stay out of there before he locks him up. Adam screams, Who are you talking to? And as Lee continues to web across the city, he tells him, shut up, we're almost where we need to be. Once the two land on the rooftop, Agent Coyle walks out, and Lee tells him that he got the jackpot for him. You want the mainline look into the superhuman criminal underworld? This guy's your ticket. Now we're never gonna see each other again. Coyle shakes Adam's hand, telling him, yeah, you're right about that. And Lee says, wait, and Adams shouts, this guy is my pet federal agent. How did you think that we knew all about you and why Mac had anti-symbiote tech? Suddenly a shot can be heard and Venom quickly covers Lee as the incendiary round hits the rooftop. Venom begins to scream, we are burning! And Lee tells him, don't panic, if you panic, we die. Lee looks back up and webs onto a water tower, pulling it down to put the fires out. As the water washes Adams and Coyle away, Lee jumps up to the helicopter that fired the round and begins to tear it apart. Back over at the FBI's office, Agent Dawson shouts, asking, where the hell is the symbiote task force? Don't we have one for situations like this? And another agent tells him that the group was kind of dismantled after the Carnage situation, but there's one guy left in it. A voice then calls out that they're right here. And Eddie Brock says, there's a rumor about a symbiote. Care to get me up to speed? And there you have it. Lee Price is now involved, but Eddie Brock is coming back. Let me know in the comments down below if you want us to tell the Marvel legacy story of Eddie Brock as Venom and the return of Flash Thompson eventually. If you've been following the entire thing in the news, you kind of know what already is happening to Flash Thompson, which is why me, a giant boycotter of the Eddie Brock return, is willing to even do these stories, because you know what? I love Flash Thompson, and if we're gonna get a different version of him, I'm okay with that. Check out our Venom playlist right here to see my favorite version of the Flash Thompson character, the Venom symbiote Agent Venom character, and check right over here for something I recommend about YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time right here.